Our first storyteller of the second half is Renata Sancken. Renata, come on to the stage.
I'm going to start my story with a phrase that probably everyone here has said, I would think, which is, I love my family, but... Because if you could say it without a but, you wouldn't be here. You would be with your family. Because you love them. So I love my family, but we get along better if we have a little bit of space between us. Especially like me and my mom. Like I'm kind of an introvert. I need a lot of alone time to sort of process my life and stay sort of sane. And my mom is an extrovert, and she needs to tell all of her thoughts to everyone as they happen. And she won't use Twitter, which I feel like that would be good for her. She won't. And also, she quit smoking in the 80s, but then she started up again sort of recently. But she still follows like 70s rules for smoking. So she'll like talk to you and she'll smoke on, like even if you're a baby, she'll just like smoke at you. Mom does not care. So it's hard. It's hard to spend a lot of time with her for those reasons. So last year, I was a little bit nervous about going to see them for Christmas because my parents had both retired and bought an RV, and they decided they were going to spend the winter in Texas, which seems, sort of fine. That's warm. It's nice. But where they are staying, it's called Terlingua. You might have heard about it because there is a National Geographic documentary about it called The Badlands of Texas. It's a ghost town with a population of 58, 60 when my parents are there. And also my brother had announced he was not going to be able to make it to Texas for Christmas because he had to work retail. And that's my only sibling. So it was like just me and my parents in an RV with 58 other people in Terlingua. But I do love my parents, so I went to Louisville Airport on Christmas Eve, and I was going to fly to El Paso, which is the nearest airport to Terlingua, even though it is 5 hours away. That is where, it's just like nowhere, this town. So I made my first flight, was fine. I went Louisville to Atlanta, and then at Atlanta, my next flight, Atlanta to El Paso, was overbooked. So they were looking for volunteers to take the next flight and they were offering a $500 flight voucher. And that's the sort of thing I normally am all over, because I love to travel, but I also love not being broke, and I'm also always behind on podcasts. So for me, it's just like a dream. Like, just hang out at the airport, just listen to my podcast, get paid for it. I'll get there eventually. It's fine. But the catch in this case was that the next flight wasn't until the next day. So it wasn't, you'd have to stay the night in Atlanta and then fly out on Christmas morning, which was, to me, honest, another perk. It was like one less day. It would be one less day in the RV. And that sounded good. But I knew that my parents would be really disappointed, and I knew they were, I was looking forward to seeing them, but I knew more they were very excited to see me, and so I did not volunteer, and no one volunteered. So they kept raising the price of the flight voucher to $600, $700, $1,000 of flight vouchers. And I realized, that was it. That was the price. That was the price I would put on my parents' happiness, was $1,000. But I pulled out my phone because I wanted to call them before I volunteered just to make sure they would still be able to come pick me up at the airport the next day. I knew they would be sad, but I wanted to make sure it was possible. But as I pulled out my phone, before I could call them, I was paged, and they called me to the counter. And because no one had still volunteered, they had chosen me to be bumped. So I was like, oh, what? I still get the flight voucher, right? And they were like, yes. And a hotel and meal vouchers for lunch and dinner and breakfast. And they're like, we're so sorry about the inconvenience. And I was like, this is amazing. Because I got all of that stuff, and I could, in good conscience, tell my parents, like, well, they bumped me. Which is true. I mean, they're not here, but it's true. Don't tell them otherwise. So that night, I was in my hotel room in Atlanta by myself, eating pizza that the airline had paid for, watching a Too Cute marathon on Animal Planet. And I loved it. But it was still really nice to see my parents at the airport in El Paso the next day. Thank you.